Now, should I actually... Would this be better? This would actually be way better. This would actually be way better, also in terms of the background. I, by the way, also thought about, doing something with the background, or at least having a bit of blur here, around me, around my shoulders, around my face, so that, it's a bit more interesting, a bit more professional, so that people actually want to have a look at my fucked up face. Anyway, I don't really know what it's going to be about today. I would really love to go through something rather significant. And once again, I'm exporting the last stream for YouTube. So if you want to see it again, either go on Twitch and have a look at it, but it is not edited. Or go to YouTube, there it is edited, or go to the podcast. I don't actually have any links down there, but you should be able to find it. Now search for my name and podcast, and then you're probably going to be able to find it. Anyway, we are indeed, I guess, gonna maybe Andrew Huberman. I don't know if you know him, but Andrew Huberman. But I really hope that there are some articles on his website, because the podcast episodes that he is doing, they are fucking incredible. They are just so amazingly well done. By the way, let me check whether the stream is actually working, because if it isn't, there is no reason for me to do it. But it actually should be fine. And it is fine. Can I actually also mute microphone lock screen? Well, should be fine like this actually. But maybe a bit more like that you can see my whole face and my whole self. Yeah, this should be fine. Let's actually have a look at Andrew Hugh. Should I actually? Well, anyway. Let's see if there are some articles on his website. Podcast episodes, FAQ. I doubt that, but. As far as I know, yes, he does. Apparently, does he? Links, timestamps. That is unfortunate. So, the Psychology Today site. Psychology Today. Let's have a look at whether there is a new amazing article here. A new amazing article about something that is very important. I do actually would suggest you to, from time to time, check out the psychologytoday.com site, since sometimes you can actually find pretty great articles, but yeah. But yeah. Does running improve romantic relationships? It's actually a pretty interesting title. But I would say, well, yeah, probably, because it's probably going to improve your mood. It's probably going to improve how you feel and how you act, like your balance in life and whatnot. And this is, in the end, I think, gonna do quite well for your relationships. But is it directly gonna change it? I doubt that, but I'm also not gonna go through the article. The phone scam that targets psychologists. You have more power over others than you realize. Let's have a look at this one. I think it is actually always quite interesting to go through things, articles, podcasts, YouTube videos, whatever it may be, that indeed empower you and make you feel like you can actually change something, on this planet. Whatever it may be, it might actually be something relatively significant, but, it is what it is. At least you can do something. At least you can make something, probably. So we're gonna see. The key points, and by the way, this is an article by Abigail Freegan from October 26th, 2021. So it is a fairly recent one. Most people underestimate the influence they have over others, especially when asking for a favor or action. People are more likely to say yes to requests made in person instead of over email. Yes, that is definitely the fucking case. And why? Well, probably it is, because it is way more personal, and you know the other person, you see the other person, you can make better decisions, to the more positive side. Because of course, when somebody sends me an email, I don't know this person. I don't know what this person looks like. Me saying this might actually be, not controversial, but maybe we do not really like to admit that it is the case, but I would argue looks do matter, not necessarily in terms of some racistic race, you know what I mean? Like, just because somebody has a different skin color than you have, that just doesn't change anything, Well, yeah, this is anyway. So the thing is, I guess, that you see the person, you just see how this person looks like, you can see how this person acts like, you can see how this person speaks like, and this, I think, really can make you feel more prone to just actually saying, yes, okay, it is fine for you to work for me, it is fine for you to just do whatever the request was all about. Compensation or incentives for a favor, such as offering gas money to someone giving you a ride, does not make a significant difference. Imagine that your cell phone battery died while you were out shopping and you needed to make a phone call urgently. Your only choice would be to approach strangers and ask if you could use their phone. The thought of asking for this kind of favor sends prickles up the spines of most people. I don't know what prickles are. Well, anyway. In fact, in a study with this exact scenario, researchers asked participants to find 3 people who would agree to lend someone their cell phone. But before approaching strangers, participants had to guess how many people they would need to ask. On average, participants thought they would need to ask 10 people before 3 would lend their phones, but participants only needed to ask 6 people. That is right, about half of the strangers who were approached agreed to let study participants use their phones. But I hope they're also going to talk about that. It also really, really depends on how you approach them. If you say, okay, this is for a study, I'm trying to find people that lend me their phone just so that I can make a phone call and whatnot. Well, does this make any sense? No, it doesn't, because they then clearly see that it is for a study. And I would also argue that in the end, the study is just useless, because you used this incentive, this kind of, how should I say, the whole reason why you actually do that as a gateway, basically, which is really nonsensical. But anyway, I do hope that they didn't do that. I do hope that they did do it in a different way. What is going on here? A growing body of research and a new book that is called "You Have More Influence Than You Think" by Cornell social psychologist Vanessa Bonds explains that people underestimate the influence they have over others. When we are on the receiving end of a request, we know how incredibly awkward and uncomfortable it is to say no, Bonds explains. But when we are the ones doing the asking, my research shows that we underestimate how difficult it is for people to say no to us. And this is indeed the case. But just because it is personal and you're asking somebody face to face, I would really argue that when you ask somebody just on WhatsApp or on social media or whatnot, they're probably going to say no. And I'm just really thinking hard and trying hard to figure out why, why this is such a huge difference, Just because you see somebody, your overall decision-making life apparently is completely different and doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, why? Why should it be? But I don't know, I do know that, but I have also noticed that I do not really like saying no to people and seemingly disappointing people also on the phone, / when you are texting with somebody, I really dislike that, I really also, actually hate that, I don't want to disappoint anyone, I don't want to make anyone feel bad or worse after an interaction with me, I would actually like to have the opposite, but of course this should not really, how would I say, this should not really alter your decision making, because in the end it's about you, in the end it's about what you would like to do and what you would like to let your life be like, in the end it's, why, it doesn't make too much sense, but yeah. When we are on the good news is this means we can get needed people more readily than we assume. The bad news is that it also means people may feel less comfortable rejecting our romantic advances and unethical requests than we think. Yeah, saying, well, I don't know, like, maybe because we know that it is going to hurt this other person if we say no. Might be actually due to that, I don't know. I hope they're going to talk about that. Would really be interesting. This is one of the reasons it can be difficult to decline something we don't want to do, like take on a volunteer assignment or buy something we really don't need. We worry about hurting someone's feelings. We worry about insinuating something negative about them or their relationship. Bond said, it's just really awkward and uncomfortable, and because of this, people often feel pressured to agree to do things they don't necessarily feel comfortable with because they feel even more uncomfortable saying no. So it is basically like choosing the less bad thing for you and the thing that makes you feel less bad. At the same time, it's often unrecognized ability to influence people can be very useful if you need help, such as needing to borrow a phone or in circumstances when it is important to convince people to take action, such as putting on a mask. Asking a direct question is more likely to yield results than most people realize. Bond's research also shows that despite the common assumption that we need to offer incentives to get someone to agree to do us a favor, such incentives don't make as much of a difference as we think. People are just as likely to agree to do small favors for us for free. So the offer of gas money doesn't make someone more likely to give us a ride to the airport. Research demonstrates that making these requests in person versus virtually, such as in an email, is much more effective. There are some basic default assumptions of in-person communication that aren't true for email, and so you have to overcome things that are missing in email communication, she said. For one, when talking to people face-to-face, we tend to trust that what they are telling us is true. In our research, we find that it is not true when communicating virtually. Well, it really depends, If a really regular person, man or woman, doesn't really matter. If this person comes up to you and asks you for something, probably you're gonna say yes. But when it is a person that seems suspicious, that seems to, I think it also, once again, depends on looks. If somebody comes up to you and seemingly looks homeless and whatnot and asks you for something, I don't know if you're gonna say yes. I don't know. I personally, to really be honest, I would probably be more prone to saying no. It obviously depends also on the on the approach and my whole situation, how I feel, how I'm doing, and whatnot. But I really think it depends on the person. I really think that depends on how this person acts, feels like to me, and Second, we tend to pay more attention to people in our physical surroundings, and we overhear what they're saying. Over email, we need to work harder to establish trust and get people's attention. The take-home message: these research findings suggest that we have more influence over others than we realize. By taking some clear steps like asking a direct in-person question, the chances of getting what we want are higher than we think. Well, I don't know, the thing is, I would say yes. Apparently, it is a study, this is just facts, but if one overdoes it with one person, if you constantly ask for something that is pushing their boundaries to some degree, somehow, then I guess at some point the person's just going to say, no, I can't do that, because, where did I think in a lesson or in a lecture, university, my professor said, when your freedom ends, another person's freedom starts. What he meant is, or at least what I think he meant is, for example, if you're just trying to expand your freedom into just, wider areas, then probably you're gonna hurt somebody else's freedom. By asking for a phone, you kind of invade someone's personal space to some degree, at least, but you expand yours, you get access to something that you do not have, something that is not in your possession, something that is not in your physical space. But on the other hand, you make somebody lose a bit of personal space. So indeed, it is kind of the case that one's freedom ends when someone else's starts, to some degree. It might actually be also pretty cynic to say that. Is it the right word? I don't know. But yes, what I would say, and I actually wanted to say something before, I guess, and then I just started reading again, but I'm not quite sure. And I, by the way, also don't really know why I still feel a bit bad, health-wise. I also have noticed yesterday my throat being actually pretty dry for whatever reason. Like, I drink enough, I eat enough, I do enough. I may actually not be resting enough. I may actually not be getting the sleep that I would need to get. But I don't know. At this point in time, sleeping just feels like actually two people. No, I do not want to become famous. Interesting. Is this like the same thing as people on Instagram texting you, go to my webcam and some bullshit? Yeah. Let me see. So if you want to have something, probably ask in person and get there in person, if you're able to do so. But yeah, for me, also to some degree, it feels a bit wrong. Knowing, okay, you pretty well, chances are better if you ask in person, because the other person feels like not saying no and not hurting someone else's feelings. To just use this as a way to get whatever you want to have and whatever you want to get feels a bit wrong to me to some degree. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's difficult, but I would actually also argue that if you're unable to say no to some things that clearly do not fit into your life or whatnot, or fit into your decision-making process, then it also says something about you, about, who you are. I don't know, I just thought about Gary Vee, for example. He gets so many requests in person and he often says no, because it is just something that he can't do and doesn't want to do. Whatever reason there may be as a cause for that, he still says no. And is it really going to make somebody else feel worse? Probably not, This is probably not going to be the case. Just because I'm going to say no to something rather, I don't know, rather simplistic, like, do you want to lend me your phone? No, I'm not going to do that. It also depends on how nice you are to the person and how nice you communicate it. Like your the words you use, the tone of voice you have, the speed of voice. By the way, this is actually very tone of voice psychology. Tone of voice reflects psychological arousal, emotion, and mood. It may also carry social information, as in sarcastic, superior, or submissive manner of speaking. Center for Nonverbal Studies. The Center for Nonverbal Studies talks about your tone of voice. What a coincidence. Not coincidence, but, well. What does your tone of voice convey? I really like, I guess this is kind of sensical, not necessarily something that is going to surprise many people, but I do indeed like to focus on my voice when I'm talking to somebody. Sometimes I really also notice that I'm getting into a very weird place, Not that long ago, I was talking to a friend of mine. Shout out to you. You're never going to see this probably, but shout out to you. And I was having a really interesting tone of voice or sound of voice and whatnot. Like, it's been very calm and very thoughtful, I would say. if this is something good or bad, just really depends. Sometimes I feel like acting to some degree, but I'm actually not, which is interesting and funny. But I don't know. I think it can really, if you use it consciously, and I also noticed that not a lot of people are doing so, and not a lot of people are maybe aware of that, yes, but I think it also you also need to reflect on that a bit, so you notice it and see it, and then also decide to basically do it and then use it as a tool for just, I don't know, communicating better with people, feeling nicer, being nicer, just easing the whole situation, I would say. I think it would actually be especially handy when in such cases, in such cases where you want something from somebody, when you're asking for something, and if you're just being really aggressive and talking really fast and whatnot, well, it might actually also work, because the other person feels intimidated. The other person feels like, okay, I really don't want to say no to you. I don't know what's going to happen then. On the other hand, I don't know if it wouldn't just be nice if you ask in a nice way, with a nice tone of voice, just being a bit lower, being a bit slower, just really communicating things how you, I don't know, so that it is good for the other person. Might actually be bad for you getting what you want to have, but doesn't necessarily always have to be about us. It doesn't always have to be about what we want to have and what we want to get and who we want to be and all of these things. No. We can also figure out a lot about how someone is doing by examining their tone of voice. Even if they're talking in a language you don't know, you can figure something out about how they feel and think just by listening to how they talk. Now we'll give you a few ideas about how to interpret what someone's tone of voice is telling you. A deep tone of voice implies maturity and generates trust in other people. It is also common to tone in advertisements. Yes, because of course, makes sense. If you're watching an ad and the person is seemingly, immature, I think this is the right word. Why am I going to buy this product? It is not convincing that it is a good product. Maybe because this is an assumption. It probably is an assumption. Yeah, period. If someone's tone of voice is extremely deep, it actually conveys a dark feeling. I don't know. A firm, confident tone of voice makes you think the person talking is distinguished and important, and probably also knows what the person is talking about. Hello, Genesis 2213. Just thinking whether this might be actually a real person would actually be pretty interesting. But I'm gonna see maybe. Anyway, talking in a quiet tone of voice makes you think the person has major weaknesses or is awkward. Yeah, but I think it also depends on the situation. Just really, really heavily depends on the situation. If you're in a fucking library and you're just shouting around like a dumbass, well, you are a fucking dumbass, On the other hand, when, I don't know, you're just having a regular conversation with someone, then speaking in a very silent and slow pace and way and whatnot, like this does not feel right. It may actually make you feel indeed like the person is weak and awkward and has not a lot of credibility. But yeah, people who have a really high tone of voice don't convey much credibility. Yes, I would say part of the reason why a deep tone of voice implies maturity and is therefore also used in ads, as we were talking about before. Voice is such a personal detail that now it's being used as a way to check identity. June 2018. Just wanted to check the date, because sometimes one indeed finds articles that are really, really old, and therefore I don't really know if they are useful to go through them. Which often can be checked by, reading something like, okay, nowadays we use this as just some identity shit. well, yeah, I don't know about that. I haven't seen it yet, using it in apps or whatever it may be. But yeah, psychologists have made an effort to identify the hidden meanings behind different tones of voice. Now we have a huge catalog of interpretations for these small details, the kinds that go unnoticed by most of us. Let's look at some of them. Breathing. The way someone breathes. Well, a talk gives an idea of the pace they live their life at. Calm, someone very balanced, is talking deep and constant energy and activity. Deep, constant and strong, bottled up anger. Superficial, a lack of practicality. Probably meaning this person is not talking a lot. Short and quick, anxiety and distress. Volume. This generally defines how someone interacts with themselves and others. Normal, self-control and the ability to listen. High, weakness, selfishness and impatience. And low, inexperience and inhibition. Volume. Low volume, normal volume, high volume. I would actually really know what this means, or like to know what it means. Articulation or vocalization has to do with someone's ability to be understood and their desire to be understood. Well-defined mental clarity, openness to communication. Imprecise, the sight or mental confusion. Very clear, narcissism and tension. Strumbling, aggressiveness and inhibition. Well, I do think that I, in general, do not have such clear pronunciation of things, which I don't know what it is due to. Probably also, because basically every time when I'm just sending a voice message to someone and I re-listen it, I feel like, how is actually one able to understand me? How does this work? Because it feels so, and I think it's also the case for the podcast. In English, it might actually also be different than it is in German, my mother tongue. But might also be the way I speak on the podcast. It is a bit different. It's a bit more conscious. Anyway. Speed, which is the last one. This will tell you about the emotional state the person is in. It's probably one of the best ideas if you already have a dry throat to talk a lot, like I'm doing. Pretty sensible. Speed. This will tell you about the emotional state the person is in. Slow, lack of interest, disconnection from the world. Fast, tension, desire to hide information. Regular, holding back, bottling up / unnatural. And irregular, confusion, anxiety, communication, breakdown. Well, I don't know. I think this really is, or should also be, viewed in regular conversations, because of course when I'm presenting something, when I'm talking something online, on a podcast, wherever it might be, I'm gonna vary my speed, my height, volume. I still don't really know, but probably kind of as well. It really depends what I'm talking about, because of course when I'm talking very, very fast and I'm also being a bit higher, one notices my energy. On the other hand, when I'm just trying to be maybe also in that sense, trying to be a bit more mature, trying to just convey a point and, not convey a point, but bring across a point and convey other people that what I'm saying is actually the truth and right and good, I'm probably going to choose a bit of a slower, or at least, regular, nice to listen to tone as well, and also speed, because it makes sense, doesn't it? But yeah, I'm gonna end the stream here. I wish you a good day, and maybe we're gonna see each other a bit later on as well. But until then, have a good day. Bye bye. Please don't do this to me.